Alright, today we're going to be learning about writing linear equations from a table at the first level. So this is the first assignment that you're doing. In this level, you're given a table of x and y values, and your table always includes your y-intercept. So remember, whenever we're writing equations, we always need two components. We need to have our slope, and you need to have your y-intercept. You need both components every single time. Now in this first table, what is my y-intercept? My y-intercept always happens when x is 0. So my y-intercept is -4. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that that's my b. b is -4. Now I need to find my slope, commonly called the m. How do we find slope from points again? That's where we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We're finding the difference in our y's and dividing it by the difference in our x's. So let's go ahead and label in our table. We can go ahead and call, I'm going to pick some random points, but it doesn't matter which points you decide to pick at your table. I'm going to call this point x1 and this point y1. I'm going to call this point x2 and this point y2. If I were to pull those points from my table, I have the point 1, 4 and the point 2, 12 that I'm labeling x1, y1, x2, y2. These points have just been put in a table format, but it's the same thing that they're talking about. So let's go ahead and subtract that. My y2 is 12 minus my y1 is 4 divided by my x2 is 2 and my x1 is 1. 12 minus 4 gives me what? 8 divided by 1. So I just get a slope of 8. You'll notice in this level the x's consistently tend to count by 1s if you happen to pick points that are right next to each other, but you still want to do out this subtraction to figure out, am I talking about a positive slope or a negative slope? Now we haven't actually written our equation yet, so let's plug that in. We've got a b of -4 and an m of 8. We got a y-intercept of -4 and a slope of 8. So that makes my equation. Go ahead and pause this video and try to write it for yourself. 8x minus 4. It makes my equation 8x minus 4 because I have the slope 8 and I have the intercept -4. I'll go ahead and write that in blue just so that you can definitely see that. So to recap, we always find our y-intercept in the table. Then we will go ahead and figure out our slope, and then we plug back into what we know that the slope-intercept form of the equation always is. Y equals the slope times the x plus the y-intercept. Let's try that with another example. I want you to go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to try this example on your own. Alright, welcome back. We know that our y-intercept is right here. It's wherever x is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and label that my b. Now I need to pick my 2 points in order to start finding my slope. I'll go ahead. It doesn't matter where in the table I do. I can call this point x1, this point y1, this point x2, this point y2. So again, in order to find slope, I always do y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. I'm taking the difference in my y's and dividing by the difference in my x's, and that's a 1, not a 2. So we're going to go ahead and do 4 minus 12 divided by 3 minus 2. 4 minus 12 gives me -8. 3 minus 2 gives me 1. So my slope is -8 this time. So when I plug into y equals mx plus b, I have y equals my slope -8 times x plus b, which is 28. That's my final equation. Y equals -8 plus 28, which again, all I had to do was pick out my y-intercept from my table, and then I have to find my slope using my normal way that I figure out slope from 2 points, because this table really gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different points I can pick from. Alright, let's try another one. So here, again, I want you to pause the video. I want you to go ahead and try both of these, and then I'll go over that with you. Alright, welcome back. So for the first one, our y-intercept is 7. You can go ahead and circle that. Now I'm going to go ahead and label x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to go ahead and find my slope, x2 minus y1, but y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Difference in y's over difference in x's. Difference in y's divided by difference in x's. Rise over run. So then we do 17 minus 12, y2 minus y1, divided by 2 minus 1, x2 minus x1. 17 minus 12 gives me 5. 2 minus 1 gives me 1. So my slope is 5. And what was my intercept again? That was 7. They gave it to me in my table. So I get y equals 5x plus 7 is my final answer. Same process here. Again, we go ahead and identify our slope in our table. Is wherever x is 0. It's not necessarily always going to be the first point in your table, but it's wherever x is 0. And then we go ahead and label. This time I'm going to use my intercept because that's completely valid. So we'll call that x1, y1. We'll call this x2, y2. So in order to find our slope, again, that's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So go ahead and do 22 minus 27. The order is incredibly important to keep track of your sign. x2 minus x1, 1 minus 0. 22 minus 27, that gives me negative 5. 1 minus 0 gives me 1. So I get y is negative 5x plus 27. Every single time, you need to make sure that you keep track of your sign and that you physically write y equals slope times x plus intercept. If your intercept is negative, just use a negative sign. If your slope is negative, just use a negative sign. I'm going to zoom this out in case you want to take a picture from this video and have some beautiful notes, although I would recommend that you have written them on your own already. And good luck. Reach out to us if you have any questions.